You want to build round buildings in Valheim? Yes, you can. However, it's quite difficult, so how do you do it? Let's get into it, shall we? Building round buildings in Valheim is actually quite possible, but it's not really what the game is intended for, it appears, but it's doable. But first, get yourself a nice flat patch of ground and some wood, and then place a half beam in the middle of where you want your structure to be. Then add some horizontal half beams to it. Here I make a cross out of half beams, but that's actually not the ideal way. You want to just turn the half beam one click every time and then attach it to the center beam to make this perfect little circle. But because I made this cross in the beginning, it's actually quite hard. So don't do that. Just add one half beam to your center point for each rotation click that you get on your mouse. Then you have this perfect round beginning of your structure. And that's, I think, one of the most important tips to create round structures is to how to create this actual wheel in the center. Now that we have that, we can extend it all the way down to 3 extra beams to each part of that wheel, basically. I'm starting with 2 beams here. I'm expanding that later because 2 is just a bit too small. But you can go as crazy as you want, obviously. If you want to make a building 17 beams wide, then go crazy, be my guest. Just make sure that you support the beams. Speaking of support, here I am adding half poles to all the endpoints of my my lower beams, basically. This is the foundation of our round building, so it needs to be sturdy, it needs to be strong, so make sure everything is supported. Now that your foundation is out of the way, let's get started on the walls and the roof. Basically, I extend with a sharp angled beam first, then a less sharp angled beam, and then a sharp angled beam again. And repeat this process for all of your circular foundation pieces. I only do it for 2 pieces here, so you can easily see what I'm trying to make. And you can connect them in the center with a regular beam. That makes it more sturdy and is helpful for building, obviously. Now that you have this house-shaped shape, I guess, we want to add little beams on all of their joints. This is very important for the snapping points that we're going to need later, because snapping points are the key feature that we need to build a round structure in Valheim. So we're going to place these half beams on every joint of our little roof shape. And once that's done, we're going to add half beams horizontally to them as well on both sides. And these are actually the snapping points that we're going to need. Make sure each little support beam has 2 little horizontal half beams attached to it for future use. Do this for all of your foundation pieces except for where you want the entrance to be, as it's easier to do now than later on. I'm doing it in a different order here in the video to show you exactly what it's going to look like, but it's much easier to just do it now for each and every piece where you need to do it. Now once you have that set up, we can actually start adding the roof. What you want to do, at least what I'm doing here, is in the center of your roof, I'm just putting one of those rooftop pieces in there. Looks nice, it's closed, that's fine. Straight out from that we have a sharp angled beam, but instead we're going to use a less sharp angled rooftop. That allows a little gap for smoke, etc. to get out of your building if you want to have a bonfire inside. Then another less sharp angled roof as the roof normally goes, and then end with a sharp angled piece of roof. That's basically the entire way of how we are going to build this roof. So sharp from the ground up, sharp, then less sharp, and then another less sharp, and then you have the top piece of your roof. And we're pretty much going to repeat this for every rotational piece of your foundation that you have. So each of these beams on the floor will have one of these shapes going up with the same rooftop thing going on. Now that you've placed all your regular roof, now we need to fill in the gaps between these pieces of roof. And basically you can do that because we have all these snapping points created with all those half beams. So just turn your roof one click every time and move to another gap and place the roof inside of there. And if you do that, you will see that actually the final roof that you're creating is pretty seamless. A couple of parts stick out with this construction in my video, but I did fix them later on by just removing them and changing the rotation a little bit. But this is how to fill in the gaps of your circular roof. Now we can continue this exercise with the less sharply angled roof on top of this one. So just get up there and do exactly the same for the next part of roof. Now there's basically only one layer of roofing left to go, so you can just hop on there and start creating your roof, although we don't have really proper snapping points for that part of the roof yet. So what I'm doing here is adding half beams to all the upper pieces of our roof and turning them one click for each rotation, basically. This allows me to have all the proper snapping points that I need for this last part of the roof. So again, pick the less sharply shaped roof and just continue this filling in exercise of roofing. You need less roof here because it's a smaller circle, obviously, so that's nice. For me, it was easier to first create like a cross section and then filling in the half of the gaps in that cross with 45-degree turned roofs. If you find that you're lacking a certain snapping point, just add a horizontal half bar to the point where you want it to snap. And that allows you to move your snapping point over by 1/2 bar, basically. I use this trick for basically all the gaps in this last piece of roof. And that's your final layer of roofing done, basically. Now the only thing left is the flooring. And that's a very similar exercise. So try to align one piece of flooring with one of those beams that you have coming out of the center. And just work outwards from there. Do this for every beam that you have on the ground. In the end, you'll be left with a couple of gaps, obviously, and we'll do exactly the same as we did with roofing. So basically just turning the flooring one click and see what is the best way to fill in a certain gap and just go ahead and fill in those gaps. Eventually, you'll end up with a pretty smooth, pretty nice and circular floor. Although there will be some sharp edges here and there, but if you do it correctly, it's not really noticeable, so that's nice. So that's your flooring done. Basically the only thing left for you to do is to add a proper entrance. So I'm adding some stairs here so you can actually enter the hut without jumping, and to add some decoration. And that is your circular hut done. Obviously you can take this design as far as you want. You can make it much bigger, much higher. You can add walls, etc. Go crazy with it, do whatever you feel. But this is the way I would build, or at least start building, circular buildings in Valheim. So I hope this was useful. If it was, please consider leaving a like, and if you're feeling particularly great today, maybe even subscribe. But that's it for now. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.